Hi, this is Tyler Moore, and I'm on the phone with Erica Swallow, who is a PR expert, tech journalist, and international speaker. Her work has been in Mashable, CNN, Forbes, Entrepreneur, USA Today, Business Insider, and a whole lot more. Today, we're going to be talking about how to do amazing PR. And is there anything that you wanted to add to that, Erica, or what's it like being Erica?
Thanks. Yeah, no, that was an awesome introduction. As you mentioned, I'm a tech journalist. I also have some experience working directly with startups. So I kind of, over the years, thought, hey, maybe I should put these together and start teaching people about startup PR. So that's basically what I'm doing. I've worked with companies big and small as a digital strategy consultant as well. Started my career at the New York Times, actually. And one of my most recent feats is I'm an incoming MBA student at the MIT Sloan School of Management. So I'm
Wow.
looking forward to that. I'll be focusing on entrepreneurship and innovation. So maybe one day I too will be an entrepreneur. As far as what it's like to be me on an average day, I work from home, luckily, so I tend to have a pretty flexible schedule, and I get up. I typically am writing most days, so I'll write a post or start a post or finish a post on a given day. And other than that, I take a lot of coffee meetings. I talk with a lot of people. I like to meet up with people to see what they're up to because it keeps me on my toes too.
That's awesome. So, because
Very
you
cool.
are a PR expert and you're in all these publication and news places, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, just right off the bat, what is PR to you? Like, can you give us a definition for like
Yeah,
a
nice.
beginner?
Sure, yeah. Totally, yeah. PR or public relations to me means having a stake in what people are saying about you or your company or
Mm,
whoever you may be representing. So people are going to talk regardless, but PR, especially coupled with marketing and careful messaging, is an outlet for a company to have a stake in its own in a stake in the conversation and have its own voice in there while everybody else is also you know keeping up the conversation.
talking about it, right?
Mhm.
So, is it about also getting news and things like that, or is that the main goal of PR is to get written up about by someone like you?
Well, it can there can be a lot of different goals. That's often one of the biggest goals is to continually. I mean, there's the metaphor of the drum. People are always using the metaphorical PR drum. They always brands always want there to be a constant beat in the news
Right.
about them. So drum, drum, drum. So like that is one thing. But it doesn't. That is the end goal, but that's not what the day to day looks like typically. It's a lot about building relationships with journalists because if you're always cold pitching everybody and you never actually develop a relationship with someone, it's very unlikely that you're going to, make an impact. So PR is a lot of I'd say relationship building for the most part. That's probably why there's public relations in there, the word
R-
relations.
Right. Okay, that's really helpful. So if you are new to all of this, how do you go about, finding those relationships and developing them?
Good point. So I would say that the way a new PR professional should think about it is to figure out how they can actually provide value for a given journalist. So start out by first knowing what you want. Um, Start out by knowing what publications and verticals or beats that you would like to target. For example, if you're a fashion startup, you might want to target fashion magazines, but also the tech blogs. So figure out the exact types of publications and which ones you want to be working with, and then the verticals, so fashion and technology.
Hmm.
And you might even go as far as like lifestyle, or maybe even I don't know. There could be other ones. There's definitely other ones out there. Maybe, for example, mobile. If you're a mobile app within fashion technology, you'd want to target also the blogs that write about mobile app development, for example, and then narrow it down to specific reporters. And that's kind of just a research thing. One of my favorite tools for figuring out which reporters to actually be, my favorite tool for finding reporters is called Muck Rack, and because it has, as a journalist, I have a free profile, but I also have access to seeing journalists across different beats and publications. It's much easier than the typical way, which is just Googling a lot and going to the websites, going to NewYorkTimes.com, going to the style section and figuring out which particular reporter is writing about your area.
So it's difficult to go in there and find their email and then email them. It's much easier just to go to Muck Rack. How do you spell that? Can you spell that?
Yeah, it's MUCKRACK.
Okay, Muck Rack.
Yeah. And from there, once you know who you'd like to chat with, think about what value you can bring to them, because we all have overflowing inboxes, so everything that goes in the inbox should, you'd hope, has some kind of value to the person on the other end. So you have to think about what is actually newsworthy. Are you pitching them just like, is it coming off as a pitch, or is it
spam?
Is it coming off as like a genuine? Yeah, is it coming off? Yeah, is it spam, or is it genuine interest and like human connection?
Right, that's funny. Okay, so we've taken the first step and we've defined what we want, and then we go to something like Muck Rack, or we either find their info on their website, which is much harder. And then what sort of things are newsworthy?
The most obvious ones, the most obvious newsworthy pieces would be product launches and company launches or new features, etc. But also some of my favorites are when a company comes out with a study based on their unique data. It could be a white paper, it could be an industry report, it could even be an infographic. When I get pitched data, I'm much more interested in it because you can't fake data. As long as it's good data, it's probably a neat story if they've pulled the right stuff. So those are some things to think about. And then some others would be if there's a current event going on in your industry, your company could have maybe a unique response to it. You have to be careful with those though, because a lot of publicists seem to latch on to current events, and when Christmas time comes around, you have like 50 billion retail emails from every different toy manufacturer or gadget manufacturer out there. So make sure that the events are actually relevant.
Right.
And then maybe you partnered with a really well-known company, like a partnership with Facebook or a partnership with Walmart or something. Like those are big news, obviously, when you have high-profile partnerships.
All right, that's awesome. What do you say when you found the people that you want? You have something that's newsworthy. What's the best way to besides you have to build a relationship, but what should that first email be or say, or what shouldn't it say?
Yeah, good question. I like to keep it short. I try to keep all my emails as short as possible, but when pitching for the first time, I try to recommend that startup peeps or PR peeps keep it down to 3 sentences if possible.
Okay, so very short.
I know, yeah, super short.
That's good.
If possible, you should just be describing like who you are, why you're writing them, and what you want from them. It sounds like pretty to the point, but that's actually a good thing because, with so much email that a journalist will get, they don't really have very much time to actually sort through it. So if you have a 3-sentence email, they're likely to read the whole thing and then potentially respond, but at the very least, you wouldn't have wasted their time.
Right.
So within that, as a startup, you'd want to have, the first sentence should always qualify while you're there. Maybe you went to a conference with them, or maybe you've been following a certain series they write about fashion tech for the past few months, and you think your startup would be a good profile within the series. Secondly, I recommend that every startup have a 1-sentence pitch. A lot of startups have a very difficult time, or the entrepreneurs behind them have a difficult time cooling down their message into one sentence so that it's digestible by people listening. I get a lot of emails that are like 2 to 3 paragraphs long, just trying to explain what the startup does.
Mm-hmm.
But most journalists, we run on headlines and, leads and stuff. We can figure out a lot with just one sentence. So
and you
I
get
recommend,
hundreds of emails a day, right? So reading a whole story and paragraph after paragraph, that's not even, you can't even put all your attention into that. You just want to know if it fits. Okay.
Exactly. In fact, it's very important to make sure that the subject line of the email is compelling, because journalists may not even make it as far as clicking onto your email because they receive so much email.
Right.
So make sure, I always recommend that the subject line actually read like a headline, because the either read like a headline or is very to the point. So like a headline, for example, if you're pitching a journalist that writes for Mashable, for example, you would want to try to tailor the subject line to actually be similar to headlines you would find on the homepage of Mashable, because they're used to looking at their own headlines every day. So if they see an email that sounds like a headline that would go on their website, they're like, maybe this is a good pitch.
Oh, so they can actually like visualize it being on the website itself in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, in a lot of times, that's the other thing. Depending on what type of journalist you're talking with, it helps to really, and I mean just for anyone really, it helps to tell your own story really well. And if you can do it in just a few lines, that's perfect, because they don't have very much time. And what you're asking a person to do, this is kind of like taking on a new job. Any profession, if someone were to ask you to take on like a 5 to 10 hour job, depending, you would want to know what exactly it is. You don't want to get some vague email or some super expensive one either. You want just a general idea. You think I should write a story about your fashion tech mobile app that helps people organize their closets in the digital world or something like that. And it's like, okay, I write about fashion tech. I've written about digital closets before, so this could be a fit.
Right.
And then from there, it's important to actually have the right resources for them. So linking off to your website is a basic one, but, over your startup name, link to the website so they can go and get more information. Hopefully your website does the job of, explaining. Maybe you haven't launched yet, though, so have some type of attachment or, just like you can attach either a press release or a one-pager explaining what exactly your startup does with, nice visuals and quick to understand information.
Right. That's very cool. Do you think a video would help? Does that make it more, because we do a lot of videos over here, so is that something of interest?
Oh yeah, definitely. Startup videos are all the rage, obviously. They always are. I mean, it's impressive, first of all, if a startup has gone through the lengths of making a video. And if the video actually explains the product well, I mean, I think in all cases you should always, if you have a video, always link to it. Embed that sucker into the email. That will get their attention. And it's an easy, fun way. And you get a little bit of a feeling about the startup and the people behind it by their creative choices within the video as well.
That's awesome. So what are some of the worst things to do when contacting people? What is just like, I don't know, they don't use your name, or they're just, you already talked about, it being like a book, paragraphs long. What are some of the just really bad things that definitely turn you off?
Yeah, I really like it when somebody researches who they're talking to. So just basic research, like you mentioned, like saying the right name. Some people have called me the wrong name, like Jessica. I get Jessica often because Erica is kind of similar in structure to Jessica, I guess.
That sucks. I always get Taylor, and it's like, it's Tyler. Okay, but anyways.
You get Taylor? Oh,
yeah. All the time.
I also get Eric too. So like knowing the gender of the person you're talking to is helpful. So the name. I also get the wrong publications, like somebody saying I write for TechCrunch, but I actually haven't ever written for TechCrunch. Not that I wouldn't, but it's just that I haven't written for them before. Just knowing, it's really important to know who you're talking to and why you're contacting them. Other mistakes would be pitching me stuff that has nothing to do with my industry. So I get pitched, all kinds of very strange things. And it's just a big burden, and I know they just want to reach out and talk to me. Like, for example, if I write about a relevant book, like I write about a book about leadership or entrepreneurship, the next day or the same day I'll get like 5 or 6 other book
About
pitches that
knitting
have
or
nothing-
something.
Yeah, exactly, like a knitting book. I'm like, that is not, I don't just review all books, okay, people? I review specific books that are
Right.
about entrepreneurship or leadership or technology.
So know who you're talking to and do your research, and that would really help you in your PR.
Yeah. I'll add
So,
one more thing.
yeah, no, please.
I'll add one more thing. If possible, try to get an introduction. And I haven't previously mentioned this that much, but cold emailing is difficult as it is.
Right.
If you can, and you figure, you know the name of the person and where they write and everything, check out their LinkedIn profile and see if you have any contacts in common.
That's a great idea.
And if you do, ask your friend or your colleague to introduce you, because you'll have a much higher rate of response that way. So that's like a huge pro tip that I recommend that I know that is extremely underutilized, actually.
That's really awesome. For my next question, what do you think of services like PR Web, where they distribute your news for you? Is it a complete waste of time, or does it work, or do you not even use it, so you don't even know?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I haven't actually used it because I think it's important to keep all of this very personal.
Right.
I know those types of services work for really big companies, where their news is so coveted that if you just put out a press release like that, then it's going to get covered.
But if you're a small company, maybe no one will care. Your name's not recognized. You really need to build those relationships more.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, that's what I think. And I think I'm really a big fan of controlling your message, not going insane, like, OMG, you have to be everywhere, and don't use those PR Web services. I'm more of the fact of, okay, let's say you've done this, you've distributed your press releases all over the web, but you actually have no actual relationships. So what about the next time? You're just going to pay a service to do the same thing?
Right.
It's much more sustainable to build relationships with individuals and who actually have some kind of connection to you. They feel like they know you, and you can, when you have something that maybe isn't super, it's like halfway newsworthy, actually, it's like, oh, this is potentially, you can still tell them about it, and because you've built a relationship, they'll at least take a look and give you feedback, maybe.
Right, and they could maybe make it into something that is much better.
Yeah, exactly. They might be working on something, and that it's kind of relevant, or it might spur them into inspiration for something. So, but if you were to just distribute that to the masses, maybe nobody would pick it up.
Right, it would get lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just like to keep things personal.
Right, exactly. And you can, like you said, you can better control your message rather than just putting it out there. Maybe people will hate your stuff, and that wouldn't be a good story for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you think it's smart to hire in Erica? Where do you find? Do you think it's smart to do it yourself or hire a PR professional if you're an entrepreneur? Maybe your startup is starting to make money, and now you have the option. Should you do it by yourself, or should you hire someone?
Yeah, it's always like a little balancing act. I recommend for early stage startups, super early on, if they are just getting started out, maybe they haven't really proven their model yet.
Right.
If they don't have revenue coming in, then try to do it themselves for starters. Of course, time is always something to consider. So if you're an entrepreneur and you find that you have you have extra time to actually be reaching out to journalists and making connections, that's a wonderful thing to do for starters, because journalists love talking directly with entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. It's usually a way better experience than dealing with a PR professional.
Right.
However, if you're running out of time and you just have no time, I think it could be a very smart move to hire a publicist, either working with someone, hiring someone full-time to work with you, or working with one of the few cool agencies. So PR professionals, the way I've actually I actually recommend a few different people here and there, and I basically figured out that they are awesome by dealing with them as a journalist. So
Right.
it's kind of it's a weird way to recommend things, but
Right. So there's no formula way of finding an awesome PR person. It's just really you just have to find those gems, or how do we find an Erica?
well, I think one of the things is, so I'll tell you a story so just so I'm not using myself as an example, my friend Jesse Chimtob, he also teaches a Skillshare class on and getting press.
Mm-hmm.
And in his class, he, kind of outlines all the different places he's gotten press and how he does it. And those are the type of people, the ones who could prove their success. They have stories to tell. And,
right.
I mean, that's one way to figure out if someone's awesome. I guess I'm a really big fan of referrals and look in the news and see which startups you think are doing an awesome job. So, for example, one of the startups I admire that does a good job at PR is Hotel Tonight, which is a mobile app for finding a hotel tonight, basically. Like last minute, every day at noon, they put up really cheap hotels.
Oh, cool.
And you can book them just for, a few nights, and, you book for that night plus, I think it's like up to like 3 or 4 nights, something like that. But the idea is that they help hotels get rid of that leftover inventory, which
right.
most likely, somebody's not just going to come in and book a hotel. So I just see them around and doing cool stuff, and their social media presence is really cool. I just like the way they deal with the public. So, that's one way I do it. I figure out, okay, who's doing cool things, and then I go figure out who's doing the PR and community management behind them.
That's a great way.
You don't obviously have to hire those people because poaching is never like a good thing to do. But you can reach out to those people and ask them who they recommend as well.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to add to this? Is there anything that we really missed? I know it's a short interview and you can't tell everything, but you do have a course on Udemy, and is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I would say the biggest thing I hope that beginner PR professionals will take away is that they really need to work on the relationships. So however you could do that, whether it's meeting up with journalists, asking them out for coffee, or just following them on Twitter, and creating a list, for example. Create a list on Twitter of all the journalists that you want to make relationships with, and every day check the list and see if anyone's saying anything interesting. Respond to them, things like that. So my biggest thing is just always be looking for ways that you can better your relationships with people. And, just always be out there networking, not just with journalists, but feel free to go crazy and network with everybody, because, knowing more and more people doesn't ever,
it always helps.
Gets you, it always helps. And lastly, my Udemy course is a huge resource with, all of my tips. So anyone who's interested in taking that, it's udemy.com/startuppr. And I think I have a 50% off code.
Awesome.
Yeah, let me figure out.
And I took I'll put the link into the description below, and I took the Udemy course, which got me interested in interviewing you, and it really was awesome. It really did help. It made everything clear. I was a complete PR noob, so I didn't really know anything about it, and it just made the whole process so much clearer and so much very logical, and so it was really amazing. So I appreciate that course. And do you have that code?
Yeah, I actually just made one, and it is Tyler. So
Tyler, okay.
Easy coupon code to remember.
Okay, so Tyler and Udemy, and it will be in the description. Thank you so much, Erica. I really appreciate it. You can check out Erica at ericaswallow.com, And yeah, thank you for our first interview. I really appreciate it, and I think it was amazing.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me aboard.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. If you want to learn more, you can go to ericaswallow.com. You can also check out her course in the description below. Please remember to comment, rate, and subscribe. Thanks a lot.